Do you want to retire to Mars? Are you perhaps tired of this blue planet called Earth? Then don't worry, your dreams have just become a lot more realistic. For the first time since the Apollo moon landings, NASA is preparing to send astronauts beyond Earth's orbit. It will probably be the most ambitious adventure ever. It will be NASA's journey to Mars. You are probably wondering to yourself, when will this happen? How are they going to do this? Or even more importantly, why? Why are we going to Mars?
Well, why are we going to Mars? There are several reasons. To begin with, imagine that our precious blue planet, the planet Earth, suddenly ceased to exist. You might be thinking that a scenario like that is preposterous, but a single large asteroid could take us out forever, just like with the dinosaurs. To survive, we have to reach beyond the home planet. Think what a tragedy it would be if all the human accomplishments were suddenly obliterated. Even if the asteroid doesn't hit us, we are slowly destroying our blue planet. We are releasing vast quantities of carbon dioxide, increasing the greenhouse effect. It may not take too much time to destabilize the Earth's climate, converting this heaven, our only home in the cosmos, into a kind of hell. So let's make sure that this isn't our only home. There is another reason why we should go to Mars. Let me ask you a question. Why did Columbus travel west? Why did Marco Polo head east? Because it is that pull, that unknown, that prospect of adventure that compels humans to seek new frontiers to explore. Exploration is in our DNA. 2 million years ago, humans evolved in Africa. They slowly but surely spread out across the entire planet. So let me tell you this, why shouldn't we spread out to other planets? Aside from all of that, wouldn't it be amazing to envision the incredible feeling of being the first human in history to step out of a capsule and leaving your footprints on Mars? By this we implore you not to just think of the feeling for the astronaut, but the experience for all those watching back home. Those who observed Neil Armstrong land on the moon all those years ago still remember every detail, where they were, who they were, and how they felt. The moment the first astronauts land on Mars will be a moment to remember. Thus, to remember. You might be thinking to yourself, why Mars? Why not, for example, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, or any other planet? Well, because Mars is the closest planet to being an Earth-like planet in our solar system. Jupiter, Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus are all out of the question, because they are gas planets, meaning that there is no surface to stand on. Mercury is way too hot. It gets up to 500 degrees Celsius daily there. The problem with Venus is that you get crushed by the atmosphere, since the air pressure is 100 times Earth's air pressure. So that's out of the question. So in our solar system, the best choice to go to would be Mars. So, you're probably wondering, how? How are we going to get to Mars? Well, it's simple. We are going to use a method called the Hohmann transfer method. The method is named after Walter Hohmann. With this method, you wait for the Earth to be at its closest point to the Sun. Mars needs to be about 44.4 degrees away from Earth when the vehicle gets launched. The two circles that you see represent the planetary motions of Mars and Earth around the Sun. The vehicles then travel along Earth's gravitational force spinning around the Sun. Then slowly it gets plunged in by Mars's gravitational fields. When the vehicle arrives on Mars, Mars will be at its most distant point from the Sun. The white line represents the route that the vehicle will be taking to get to Mars. The route is not the shortest nor the fastest, but it's the cheapest fuel-wise, and it requires the least amount of energy output. This alignment only happens once every 22 months. So, everything went well and we got to Mars safely. And then you wonder, how are we going to survive there? Well, let's take a look at it this way. What do you need to survive on Earth? You need water, food, shelter, and clothing. Alright, seems simple, but what do you need on Mars? You need all the above, plus oxygen. You might think, how are we going to get water on a dry planet like Mars? Well, Mars is not dry at all, it's filled with water. The soil is 60% water and the ice balls are filled with tons of water, so much that if it all melted, Mars would be 9 meters underwater. However, it takes a lot of human labor and energy to get all that water out. There is a better way of getting water on Mars. There is a device called the Wavar. It's an amazing device. It's a low-tech dehumidifier. Researchers say that Mars' atmosphere contains 100% humidity. So, the humans can extract all the waters that they need simply from the atmosphere of Mars. Alright, the water problem has been solved, but what about oxygen? Don't worry, NASA has solved that problem as well. They have made a device called the MOXIE. This device converts CO2 from Mars' atmosphere into oxygen. Mars' atmosphere consists for 92% out of CO2, and CO2 itself consists out of 78% oxygen. One of these devices can produce enough oxygen for a lifetime of one human being, and it's only around 30 centimeters tall. Alright, now that oxygen and water are solved, there are 3 more things to be able to survive on Mars: food, shelter, and clothing. Since food can't be grown yet on Mars, it will be sent dried in high amounts from Earth to Mars. For shelter we can use inflatable pressurized buildings as well as the landers themselves, but this is only in the beginning. There is way too much solar radiation in Mars for this to be successful. It turns out, however, that the soil on Mars is perfect for making bricks. NASA will throw some polymer plastic into the dust, throw it into a microwave oven, and they will be able to make buildings with thick walls. The only thing left that is needed to survive on Mars is protective clothing. Tovin Newman, a scientist at MIT, has created the sleek spacesuit. It will keep us together, block radiation, and keep us warm. So the clothing problem has also been solved. So now we have water, food, shelter, oxygen, and clothing. We can survive on Mars. The only thing you're wondering is probably, how is life going to differ on Mars? It won't be that different. As life proceeds on Mars, hotels will get built, restaurants will be built, and it will start to look a lot more like Earth. Remember when people landed humans on the moon? They looked at each other and said, "We can do anything." What would they think if they saw us building a colony on Mars? One thing's for sure, we will be a space-faring species, and that means humans will survive. No matter what happens on Earth, we will never be the last of our own kind. And thank you for your attention.